want to take a minute to talk about something. I didn't make any notes or anything, but I just wanted to make it very clear. And I know people think I'm being negative, but I'm just being realistic. Um, but I want to explain why we can't win, why we're not going to win. And by we, I mean the people in America that want freedom, that want liberty, that want the good guys to win. We're not going to win. And I'm going to tell you why we're not going to win. And it's pretty simple, it's pretty easy to understand. So, about 20 years ago, I was in college, and some lead lawyer for national security, he was a lawyer for the government, he did national security, but he was teaching a course on, the wars of tomorrow. And he talked about how the wars in the future would be fought with information. And he talked about like the challenges of the World Wide Web, having the internet, having everyone able to access information. And when you have a war that's being fought on information, but everyone has access to the information, it becomes really hard to succeed with a lie because everyone's able to go find out what the truth is. If you bring a lie out there, then the internet is going to do what the internet does, and it's going to be relatively easy for people to find what the truth is. And so the only way to win that war, and you need to understand that the government and these organizations, they don't have, we often talk about them playing like 4D chess and stuff like that, but a lot of their plans, they succeed because they're so simple. Everyone else is playing 4D chess and they just go right under the radar. And this is one of those plans where it's just so simple, it can't fail. It's not going to fail. It can fail. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's not possible for the good guys to win. It's always possible for the good guys to win, but I think we're in a world where there aren't really any good guys. There's no good guys. There's just a bunch of different bad guys fighting each other, claiming that the other one is more bad than they are. But in that information war, that he said that the only way to win was to put out so much information, false information, misinformation, misleading information, information that's 99% true, but is keeping out the details, the details that tie it all together. Uh, a key, like I'll explain this in a minute, um, but you have to flood the market with so much information, so many conspiracies, that finding the truth is like finding a needle in a haystack. It's not that it isn't out there. They know it's out there. They know it's findable. They know people can scour and find it. So what they do is they put so much information out there that could be true, that caters to those people's beliefs and biases or the way those people look at things, that those people will latch onto that information before they get to the correct information. They find something, a theory, a conspiracy that they like, that keys into them before they get anywhere near the truth, because there's so much information out there. The chance that you stumble on the true thing first is small. The chances that somebody with a big enough voice stumbles on a true thing first is even smaller. And then the chances that someone with a big enough voice has the ability to inspire the change is even smaller. It puts them behind an almost astronomically impossible barrier for defeat. And the beauty of this plan is you can make your enemies fight themselves. They don't know they're fighting themselves. It's so simple. What they do is they latch on to some misinformation. It might be 99% true, but it's missing the key details they need it to miss, and therefore keeping everybody off the mark. But you keep these people latching on those things, and they help put out more information. They help inspire people to look in wrong directions. And they don't mean to do it. They don't know they're doing it in most cases. Many of them could be very diligently trying to find truth, very diligent truth seekers or something. But they've latched on to information and they're out there spreading it. And you find everyone spreading a lot of different theories, a lot of different ideas. Oh, look here, look there, look everywhere. And that's how it's designed. The system is designed that way. And to think of it like this, think about it like a code, like the government used and uses like codes, encryptions for a long time. It's top secret. The encryption code is top secret, and you need to be very, very high up to even see it or know it. You can know that you have to be high up to even be able to touch encryption devices, even if you have absolutely no idea how they work or how you would even unpack how they work. Um, but that's how this system works. The powers that be have the encryption to know how to find the true information. They have the code, but we don't. It's encrypted. It's heavily encrypted. It's privileged. So what we have is hundreds of thousands, if not millions or billions of conspiracy theories. However many minds are out there creating one after another, after another, after another. Oh, it could be this, it could be this. They found out they're wrong about this. They find another detail, another piece of information or misinformation, sends them on another trail, and they're constantly feeding the machine, pointing the gun that the enemy has given them to point at themselves and the people that consume their media. The government doesn't have to fight. All they have to do is make sure that there is enough credible false information out there that the people will destroy themselves. They will latch onto it and they will constantly put it out, and they will be putting out all of the haystack that you have to try to navigate to find the needle. But they're stacking haystacks on haystacks on haystacks on haystacks, and everybody involved in putting out the information, in trying to uncover the conspiracies, is contributing to the haystack that is being used to destroy them. You can get your enemies to fight yourself. To fight themselves. It's so unbelievably simple. And this is the guy that taught this class. He didn't teach all this. I'm just telling you based on thinking about it for the last 20 years or so, uh, how far I've gotten with how simple this idea is. So all your favorite influencers are out there putting out constant information and constantly feeding you with these clickbait titles that, everything's been overblown, everything's blown out of the water, this new thing. And you watch that, and then they find something else, and then you watch that. They're helping flood the market. They're helping put out the haystack and making sure that the haystack makes the needle so hard to find that you're not going to find it. So these things are purposefully put out about everything that goes on. It's not like the old days when you try to hide it and you don't let a single detail get out, or else, it will kill you, or destroy your story. Like, you try to hide it and you don't let anyone know that a single detail has happened. That's how it was in the old days. Nowadays, you put out absurdly wrong stuff, some people are going to latch onto that. You put out mildly wrong stuff, some people are going to latch onto that. You put up 50%, 50-50 stuff, some people are going to latch onto that. You put out 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, 95-5, 99-1, 99.9 to 0.01. All you have to do is put out information everywhere. And as long as you put out 20, 30, 40, 50 different conspiracy theories, the people, your enemies that are trying to uncover your secrets, they're going to do the rest for you. They're trying to uncover your secrets, trying to find out your information. They're going to start generating their own theories. They're going to start generating their own conspiracies. They're going to start adding hay to the haystack, making the needle more and more impossible to find. This is why we can't win the war. All the people doing this, they're not going to stop. Why would they stop? That's how they're making their living. That's how they're making their money. That's how they're keeping their influence. That's how they got people clapping their names and waving hands. Why would they stop? They're not going to stop. The solution to this, how we would win, is just as unbelievably simple as the plan that the government has. The solution is unbelievably simple, but it'll never happen. It's unbelievably simple, but impossible. And I don't mean like literally impossible, like if all the, situation was to align perfectly, that it couldn't be done. But in the sense of it's impossible in the fact that the people that need to do it never would. They're too happy with the way things are. That's the only reason they're fighting, is they want to keep things the way they are. To do what is right to end this system, to beat this system, is going to require a massive cost on both sides. It's not like the system is just going to be beaten and the people that hate the system are just going to be able to walk around in their same lives having not lost anything. That's what people want. That's not going to happen. That's not feasible. You're going to have to, in order to get the one to fight this battle for us, that can win this battle for us, you're going to have to give up the things that you've compromised yourself with. You're going to have to give up the things that you love that does not contribute to the cause. And so the solution is unbelievably simple, but also impossible, because people will not do what's necessary. They will not give up what they love. In the same way that these people adding the hay to the haystack will never stop adding the hay, because their adding the hay is giving them the money, the influence, the popularity, all of those things. Why would they stop? That is feeding them. They're not going to stop. And if 100 of them stopped, it wouldn't make a difference to the million. This is why change is so impossible. People say, oh yeah, well, it's super easy to destroy the system. All you have to do is get all the people on the same page. Yeah, that sounds real simple. Sounds real simple. But how do you get a population of people trained their whole lives to hate each other to get on the same page? It might sound simple in principle. Oh, just get on the same page and win. It sounds great in principle. But it'll never happen. It will never happen. How could it happen? You think all these people are going to get on the same page? They're going to say, oh yeah, there's no such thing as Democrat or Republican, black or white, educated, uneducated. All these things are meant to divide us. We're all just humans trying to live our lives. To get everybody to recognize that? No way. No way. You could change a million minds and not even be able to throw a pebble in a river. Okay? Not even be able to throw a pebble into the Colorado River in changing the minds that need to be changed. We're in a time of strong delusion. This has been talked about for thousands of years, that this time is coming. This strong delusion, this information time when people are able to go to and fro across the earth and gather themselves teachers having itching ears. Just anything you want to hear, find somebody to say it. This is what has allowed me to stay outside of all that. Like, I understand it's all a lie. Everything they put out there is a lie. Just to put an example of the Charlie Kirk, let's just say the Charlie Kirk situation. Everything out there is a lie. The truth might be floating out there somewhere, but it's so unlikely, it's so absurd, it's so hard to believe, and there's so few people saying it that it might never even cross your eyeballs or go through your ears. The chances are that everything that you hear about it is false. And every conspiracy you hear about it is also false. Every single thing about it is false. Everything is false. It's all fake. And there's no way for you to know what's true because the haystack is way too big. And even if you did get your hands on the truth, the person that got their hands on the truth would need to have the influence. And the chances of that are insane. It's insane. You know, and so they use these people, these YouTube influencers and movie stars and all these people with influence, they use them to feed their encryption. They're using the enemy to encrypt the information for them. And the enemy is doing everything they want them to do. The system cannot be beat, not by conventional means. You can't use the tools of the system to beat the system because the system can afford the very best tools. This is what we're dealing with today. It's like if somebody learned how to throw a punch and they said, you know what, I'm really good at throwing a punch. I have power. And so they're able to beat a few people that are not as good as them at throwing a punch. But then they run across somebody that is not just a good punch thrower, they're the best punch thrower. You can't beat the person that is the best at punching because you're pretty decent at punching. You can't use their tools against them. If they have the best skills, the most assets, the most support, the most financial ability, the most tools, they're the far superior puncher. The chances of beating them punching is bewildering. And you're not even dealing with the fact that the amount of power these systems have exceeding our own is insane. Yeah, it's not something your mind can't fathom it. We can't fathom it. Like, there are people that make more money in 10 minutes than I will touch or have influence over in the course of my entire life. There are people that make more money in 10 seconds than I will have the potential to put my hands on and influence over in my entire life. They have the means and influence that is beyond all. And there's only one that has more means, more strength, more power, more ability than all of these. There's only one. And there's absolutely no one that is going to turn to him and do things his way. And that's what's required to win. We have to turn back to the only one with the real power so that he'll want to intercede on our behalf. But we'll have to do things his way. It won't be our way. It'll have to be his way. We'll have to give up. We'll have to give up all the things that we love. We might have to give up the technology that allows us to do things that we shouldn't be doing easily. Okay? We have to give up the things that are destroying the purpose that he has. And people aren't going to do that. People have told themselves that the evil things that they do are his purpose. They see their evil desires and their evil deeds as his deeds. Like he told them to do it. He's the one. Like the reason they're doing it is because he told them to do it. That's the way they look at the world. This isn't something, what's happening in the world isn't something we can win, because the Bible tells us that God is the one that sends strong delusion. He's the one allowing this to happen because of the corruption that we've had. We, as his people, have allowed so much corruption in ourselves that he is now reflecting that corruption that we have allowed into ourselves, into our temple, into our bodies. He is allowing us to see that corruption in the world around us. He is the one giving us this punishment because of our evil deeds. But the chances that God's people will turn back to him, it doesn't have to be the world. That's the sad thing. It doesn't have to be the world. The world doesn't have to change. God will force the world to change if his people, which are called by his name, do what he wants them to do. If we turn and seek his face and turn from our wicked ways. But the thing is, the people don't want to turn from their wicked ways. They want to keep their wicked ways. They want to call their wicked ways good. They want to justify and accept their wicked ways. They don't want to change their wicked ways. This is the reason we can't win. Not that it's not possible, not that God couldn't intercede on our behalf and fix this all up for us, but because the enemy's too powerful and we need God to intercede on our behalf, but we're not willing to do as he would have us to do. We have our own pleasures. We have our own desires. We have our own things that we want to do, and we're not willing to give up those things so that he will intercede on our behalf. We're not willing for that. And so we're not going to get it. The only way to stay centered in this world, and I'm not saying this is to stay centered to win. We're not going to win, okay? Our loss is foretold. It's going to happen. You know, Israel's already rising up in power. They're eventually going to get it. They're eventually gonna do what is written of them, and they're going to bring in their Antichrist, and they're going to cause all of the Christians to die, because judgment begins at the house of the Lord. And we're going to have to be purified and made white through this time of tribulation that is coming. And it's all got to be done. It's not going to not be done. It's got to be done. God could stop it at any time. He tells us that he could. He tells us that even if he was coming in the clouds, if we turned and repented, that who knows, he could turn around and go back. Tells us that in the Old Testament, either in Joel or Amos. It's not that God can't intercede on our behalf. It's that we will not do what we need to do to intercede on our behalf. And I may be able to influence myself, my family, maybe 2 people that watch this video, but they won't share it. They won't try to sin to other people. They won't try to spread the message. They won't try to, it's not going to grow. I can maybe influence my family and a couple of people. And even if people did share it, the chances of it even then reaching somebody with influence is outrageous. It's just in the ideas, the understanding is that you can't use the tools of the enemy to defeat the enemy, because the enemy created the tools and perfected the tools and has the most power to use the tools. Okay? You can't beat the enemy that way. It's not going to happen. It's not. The enemy has gotten far too powerful, and as the Bible says, the mystery of iniquity is it's deep in now. And so how I keep myself centered is I don't analyze the events of the world and use them to understand the Bible. The events of the world, even if I did know what exactly was happening, like I was able to find that events are happening, to be able to find the correct series, the correct understanding of those events, the correct information regarding those events, and to be able to, sift through the nonsense. And it's beyond my capacity. It's not. All I can look at is I can look at it and say, whatever they're saying isn't true. Like whatever the official narrative is, I know that ain't true. But what is true, there's no way to know. So I don't have the ability to tell you what is true. All I can do is stay on center. I can tell you where truth can be found. And so I found where truth can be found, and that's in a story that isn't changing. I don't have any influence on it. Nobody else has any influence on it. It's always told the same story, and it's still telling the same story today, and I can go and read that story anytime I want. And I can find out what's happening in the world. And the Bible wrote it down, thousands of years ago, and I see it every day come more and more true. I see it every single day come more and more true. I'm seeing right now Israel rise to power. I'm seeing them consolidate power and try to take over these countries. And I don't know that this is for sure the end times events. Like this is exactly it. Like this is that system of Israel getting the control that was prophesied. There's no way for me to know that for sure. But I can tell you all the signs that the Bible wrote are present. I'm seeing a lot of things that the Bible talks about increasing as the time draws near. As these sorrows begin, I can see all of the things that the Bible says will happen are either happening, or they're beginning to happen, or they look like they're right around the corner. And, I know that God can save us from this. God can help us. He can intercede on our behalf. But I don't think, my brethren, I think Christianity has devolved into being worse than non-Christianity. Like if you look at the Old Testament, it was always like Israel, Judah fighting against these evil countries around. But then eventually they became worse than all the evil countries that they had taken over. And I think that Christianity is that now. Christianity is worse than anyone else as far as the immorality and the should have known better way that we do things. And so this is just simple. You can know that it's true because it's so unbelievably simple. It's unbelievably simple that the government just, if you need to stop people from finding the information in a world where information is easy to find on the internet, then it's just as simple as putting out loads of information so that they can't find out which one's true and which one's not. And then you can get your enemies to latch on to that information, share that information, and grow the haystack that is going to make the needle even more impossible to find. And then all you need as the system is an ability to encrypt, to see through the nonsense, to know which one is true through some sort of encryption method that they use, that the powers at be use, that know exist, and they put out their information and they can sift through it. But everybody else, all we have is, oh, I think this conspiracy, oh, I think that conspiracy, and everybody knows there's corruption, so there has to be some kind of conspiracy to commit that corruption, but nobody can know which conspiracy is true because there's millions of them out there. Millions. And so that's what I think that people should understand. And if you're willing, click all the things on the video and send it to people and try to open people's eyes, or just totally pirate and take everything I said and make a better video. Look, I know that I'm probably the most unlikable human being on this planet. That if you can do better, I don't care if you pirate every single thought or thing I say and put it out there. That does not bother me at all. I understand that I am just not going to be a liked person. I never will be. I never have been. I never will be. I don't have a way of saying things that people like, and I don't have a compromising nature. I just don't. People want me to have a compromising nature. I just don't. The fact is that when I see some friend or someone walking down a road that I know is going to ruin them, I'm going to do everything in my power to stop them, even if it makes them hate me. Because the reward, if they turn from their wicked way, is immeasurable to them. And the loss is, hey, this life sucks anyway. This life sucks anyway. I've watched so many people make mistakes and walk down the wrong roads, and I tried with everything in my power to stop them, and they hated me. They hated me. They didn't like the way I said it. They tell me how evil, how proud, how whatever I was, and I watched them walk down roads. I've watched women divorce their husbands thinking that they're going to get something great and then end up getting exactly what I told them is going to happen. And I can't say I told you so because they don't talk to me anymore because they hate me so bad because I was the only one that was telling them, don't do this. You're going to destroy your life. And now they hated me because I wasn't telling them what they wanted to hear, and now they hate me because I was right. And so I'm just not destined. I'm not destined to have people, to have friends, to have people like me. That's just not something that's in the cards. So if you can do better, please do. Pirate, put all this information out, claim it as your own. I mean, it doesn't matter. It only matters that the information gets out there and people start to understand what's really happening. That they start to come to terms with what's really happening. That they sit down and they realize, oh my gosh, we can't win. We're not going to win. We can't win. We are about to watch everything we love destroyed, and we can't win. We need everyone to realize that, because when everyone realizes that they're so totally screwed, there's nothing they can do, then maybe they'll turn to the only one that can help. But they have to realize that. And they will not realize that if we have 5,000 prophets of Baal telling them, no, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay we're going to win. The truth is going to win. You know, if they have everybody out there saying that, the message that they want to hear, then that's what they're going to hear. And I'm just not willing to be the guy that is okay with watching the whole world crash and burn and me having just not said anything because I didn't want to lose friends. Watching people destroy their lives, I would rather try everything I can short of physical violence to force them to do what's right. Because the end result to them is a windfall. It doesn't change anything for me. You know, I haven't, if I have a friend and I stop them from doing something that destroys themselves and going to a situation where I have to walk away from them because they've destroyed themselves and they've gone into some, just wicked scenario, then I have to walk away from them and let them continue on their path until hopefully they learn their lesson and get back on the right path. I'm losing a friend anyway. Like, if I gain a friend, then that's it. Or if I keep a friend, then all I've done is kept what I already had. It's not, people don't understand. People don't understand what's coming. People don't understand the fight that needs to happen. People don't understand where the battlefield even is. People understand nothing. They delusionally think they can win. Like a guy that's had no fight experience delusionally thinks he could beat the heavyweight champion of the world because he doesn't know what it's like. He's never been in there. He's never seen that he enters into that ring and it's like a man fighting a baby. He doesn't even know what to do. He doesn't even know how to respond. Like, he's got nothing. He doesn't understand that. He's confident because he's ignorant. And this is the world that we live in. We have all these fake intellectuals talking about how smart they are, it's like they'll discover, they'll see like the most obvious thing. And they'll say, I'm so smart because I seen that. Like me standing and looking up at the sky and going, my gosh, the sky's blue. I told you, vindication, validation, the sky is blue. I'm right. Look how freaking smart I am. It's like, dude, you've just said what is obvious. That doesn't make you smart. It's not smart because you can see the obvious. That doesn't make you smart. Everyone can see the obvious, or everyone should be able to see the obvious. If they can't see the obvious, then it might make them dumb, but it just makes you the smartest guy in a world of dumb people. And these people are like this. They sit in a circle with a bunch of people that are not smart at all, telling them how intelligent they are, and they start to believe it because the circle around them, they look like a big fish in that pond. But it turns out they're a small fish in a minnow pond. All the fish around you are just smaller. And this is the world we live in. A smart person would understand that they're not smart. Like, the smartest thing you can understand is that you are not smart. Like, there's so many things you don't understand. There's so many things you can't do. There's so many limitations. There's so many times in your life when you knew for certain, you would have bet your life on it and been wrong. You don't even realize, like, you'd have to be smart enough to realize you have so many limitations. There are so many things that you don't know, and the things you don't know exceed the things you do, which makes everything that you know dangerous, so likely of being wrong. A smart person would be weary of their intelligence. They would be weary of it. They would feel so wholly inadequate because they understood enough to know they are wholly inadequate. And the smartest of all people that have ever lived, if you think about, You know, all the people that live on earth, the smartest of them is just a bright turd in the toilet. It's nothing. It's nothing. You still can't, make a tree grow with your mind. You still can't understand languages that you haven't spent years and years learning. You still can't, you still can't do everything that's needed to do. You still can't see everything that is. You still are so incredibly far away from all knowing that you should understand this. People should understand this. But I hear all these people, oh, I'm super smart. I'm super smart. I was a super smart kid. I got put in all the super smart programs and I'm super, super smart. I hear it all the time. All the time I hear people talking about how smart they are. I'm smart. Like the Godfather movie. I'm smart. I'm a smart man. Everybody thinks I'm dumb, but I'm not. I'm smart. And just like, okay, whatever, yeah, real smart. Real smart. When you hear someone say that they're smart, you know they're not smart. I mean, you don't have to say you're smart if you're smart. You don't, it's not something you have to say. It's kind of like, they would say, somebody says, I'm the king. And, they go, oh, the king wouldn't have to say I'm the king. The king doesn't need to go, I'm the king, because everybody's too afraid. It just is the way that it is. At any rate, I hope people watch this video and maybe care enough to share it, steal it, whatever. But get the information out there because people need to know we can't win. We're not going to win. That way, maybe, just maybe, if there's one snowball's chance in hell, just maybe, the hearts and minds of people, when they see they've been backed into a corner that they cannot get out of, that they say, Lord, help us. Because that's what we need. That's what we need. That's what we need when the judges would come and they would punish Israel so severely, and Israel would get so far into despair, when they're so far into rock bottom, that they would finally look to the Lord and ask Him to intercede on their behalf. We're at the same crossroads. But instead of looking to the Lord and asking Him to intercede on our behalf, we're telling ourselves the Lord is already doing and telling me, like I learned all this information from the Lord. I hope people understand what I'm saying. I hope people understand why I've been the way I've been for the last 20 years. We won't win any other way. There's no chance. It's not possible. We can't win any other way. It can't happen. It's not ever going to happen. There's no chance. You can't beat evil with evil. You can only beat evil with good, and not your definition of good, God's definition of good. And your definition of good is so woefully misunderstanding God's definition of good that you wouldn't even understand. We have to get back to a world that people would not even fathom. People would not even fathom the things, the justices that we have to right. We need the world to right injustices that are happening right now that people don't see as injustices but moral goods. People see it as morally good. They see it as morally good that a woman can commit adultery against her husband and then still get the kids and then make the husband pay child support. They see that as morally good. And if the husband doesn't want to pay child support to his betraying, cheating wife, they see him as morally wrong. When in God's world, she couldn't have the kids because she wouldn't be alive. Because in God's world, the adulterous woman is put to death, and the person that committed adultery with her, so that it's righted and the children stay with the family and there is no divorce court. God's system of just and justiceness is not the world system. And I've seen so many supposed Christians out there today that don't even have a single clue what God's judgment is. Like they say, "Oh yeah, well you should tolerate and love gay people." It's like, dude, if you understood God's judgment, there would be no gay people for me to tolerate and love. God's judgment is if they're even effeminate, to send them to meet God, to send them to be sorted out by the Almighty. Not us individually, but that's what the government's supposed to do. That's what the elders and the people in charge are supposed to do. They're supposed to make sure God's judgments have occurred. People are like all this time, oh, well, you should just love them because they're just sinners, and this person's just a sinner. It's like, okay, you can still love them. You can still forgive them. But they should still suffer the consequence that God says is morally right so that society is restored. If you're not willing to do what is morally right, to turn back to God, if we don't hit rock bottom and turn back to God, then there is no winning. It won't happen. I don't want us to have to hit rock bottom. I don't even think that's in the cards. I don't want us to hit rock bottom and to have to hit rock bottom to turn. I'd rather we turn before we hit rock bottom. I'd rather that happen 10 days from, I don't even know where I was going with that, but 10 times rather that happen than for me to become a trillionaire tomorrow. I'd so much rather people just say, hey, let's not hit rock bottom and let's just go ahead and turn to the Lord. Let's go ahead and read His Word. Let's go ahead and understand His judgments, and let's go ahead and try to ensure that even if we can't compel the government to do God's judgments, that we do at least believe God's judgments are right in our hearts, and let God punish the government. You don't have to, vengeance belongs to the Lord. You don't have to say, oh yeah, the Lord says all gays should be executed, and therefore I'm going to go out there and do the Lord's will and execute gay people. No, that's not what you're supposed to do. Vengeance belongs to the Lord. That's what the governments are supposed to do. We're supposed to compel the government to do the moral law written down by God. If the government doesn't do it, then at least we know in our hearts that we are standing up for God, that we believe God's judgments are right. But if you don't believe God's judgments are right, and you're not willing to stand on God's principles and the truth, and understand that God's law is just and moral, even if you don't like it, and instead of saying, oh, that's the Old Testament, like the Old Testament God is some liar and the New Testament God is just totally new and different God. Like, oh yeah, well, the Old Testament law was a complete lie and fabrication by that old backwoods God, but now we have the new Great Woods God that is totally different than the Old Testament God. Like, every time somebody says, oh, that's in the Old Testament, I think, what a dumb person. Like, how could you even say that? Like, that's in the Old Testament. Like, the Old Testament and the New Testament are the same testament. It's still a testament of Jesus. Just in the New Testament, we're looking back to Jesus. In the Old Testament, they were looking forward to Jesus. But it's still Jesus' testament. Jesus is still that one God. He's still the same God that He was in the Old Testament. Just in the New Testament, He's teaching us by example. He kept the law by example. Okay? In the Old Testament, He made the law. Okay? He made the law. Not against us. He didn't make the law so that we could serve the law. He made the law to serve us. We just didn't trust Him. We didn't believe the law, and we allowed His law to be forsaken. And what happens to us when you forsake God's law? Well, you see what happens to us. It's not rocket science. When you forsake God's law, this is what happens to us. Our society crumbles. Morality crumbles. It's in the ditch. Nowadays, you have to look at cross-dressing people everywhere you go. You have to look at proud sodomites everywhere you go. You have to deal with the fact that every woman you meet is an adulteress. You have to deal with the fact that every man you meet is a whoremonger. You have to deal with the fact that every single person, even the ones calling themselves Christians, are doing evil every single day, and not only justifying it, but also saying that God allowed them to do it. That not only is it not evil, it's actually what God told them to do. God called them to do it. Men sleeping with their deacons' wives, preachers sleeping with their deacons' wives because God told them the story of David and Bathsheba and that message to him that he should have his deacon's wife. Men justifying, using God to justify all the evil deeds that they're doing in this world. It's a complete absurdity. So, to conclude, I wish to say we can't win. We can win, but we can't win. Like the win is impossible. It's not impossible, but it is impossible. I don't have enough confidence in men to believe that men will turn from the evil deeds they've done without some major cataclysmic event from God. And I don't think God's doing any more cataclysmic events. I think He's allowing us to destroy the world ourselves so He can bring about the end that He prophesied. It's got to come at some point. Okay? So, either way, you do you. If you don't want to share, you don't want to, get the message out there, if you don't want to contribute, or if you don't think that I'm right, you think you see some better way, or your little positivity at all cost messages somehow seems better to you, then do that. But I feel 100% confident we can wait and see and find out who's right. I feel like Moses, when he was standing there and they were doing the test to see whose staff would bud. Moses and Aaron had their staff, and then all the other tribes had their staff. I feel like Moses is going, I know my staff's going to bud. I know their staff isn't going to bud. I know they're going to be destroyed and punished by God because they think their staff's going to bud. And I don't want them to. I really wish they wouldn't have done this, but I know whose staff is going to bud. That's what I feel like. I feel like, I'm not as meek as Moses. I'm not even close to as decent of a human being as Moses. I'm not as close to as compassionate as Moses. I'm more in the camp of, we deserve it. Like, we deserve it. I've watched so many people lie and gainsay at God's expense. We deserve it. I'm more in the I'm spiteful side of it. It's hard for me to be loving anymore. It's really, really difficult. I try. I tell myself I need to be, but at this point, I've just gotten to be super cynical, probably unhealthily cynical about the way the world is. I've just watched too many people give up what's right for what gives them a little temporary gain. It's just far too discouraging. At any rate, God bless.